Mandy O. This is Grow, Make, Cook, and welcome to my garden. I grew up in Australia in a permaculture family, but after we got married, Mr. O and I moved here to his home country of Croatia. I am a passionate and hands-on homemaker and gardener, and I love life's simple pleasures. So join me on my journey, and together we can learn to grow, make, and cook. It's the second week in May, and it's been bloom and doom for my broad beans, but I am absolutely delighting in the florets from my Tuscan Kale. There are so many reasons to let your Tuscan Kale go over into flower. One of them is that the bees, adore the flowers, and they bring lots of lovely pollinators into your garden. I can see lacewings and bees of about 3 different types. It's just a buzz. But the other real benefit of keeping your Tuscan Kale in the ground till it gets to this point is that you get these. These are florets, and they are a delicious steamed vegetable, great in stir fries or just cooked simply, steamed on their own. To cook these healthy and nutritious greens, I use the simplest recipe. Simply pick them off, pop them in a microwave safe container, grab some fresh herbs, I'm using fresh chives, give them a rinse, pop the lid on and microwave for a minute. Served with a drizzle of olive oil just before serving, little bit of mashed potato and a scrambled egg, and those kale shoots make for a good lunch. It's not just my kale shoots or sprouts or florets that are thriving at the moment. We have a beautiful crop of black currants just coming up. These are our new black currant bushes that we took from cuttings last year, and they look like they're producing berries already. The grass, which we leave to grow a little bit long, has produced an abundance of buttercups and wildflowers and is just a dream to look at. I'm also loving the end of the pear blossoms, which are absolutely magical when the sun hits them. And one other thing that's really bringing me joy at the moment is these beautiful broad bean flowers that have really just started to come into their own. How important it is to water your broad beans when they're in flower. You can see that these flowers are just coming up in there. And when they're coming into flower, it's really important to water them a lot, because if you don't have a lot of water, if they get checked by not having enough water, then you won't get very good broad beans. It was just 2 days ago that I was telling you all how important it is to water your broad beans now if they've come into flower. But today tragedy has struck. When I come in and had a look, all of this corner of the broad beans, and even over here, they've all had their roots completely eaten off. They're all dead. I suspect I have a vole problem, I can see that there's been some tunneling there in the earth. There's a deep spot, and when you pick it up you can see that that's been completely eaten. I can see a little mound there in the garden bed, so there's definitely a big heap of loose soil that's come up, and in this entire corner of my broad bean patch I have lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've lost 6 of my broad bean plants. That's about a third of my current broad bean plants. And I can see here, if I push down in the soil, I can see that there is definitely a lot of give, and it looks to me like there's some tunneling going on under there. So, tragedy on the broad bean front before they've even had a chance to make any of those delicious green pods. One of the lovely things about having a garden is having a place to sit quietly in the mild spring weather and craft. So today I'm going to try and turn this piece of pine, or board is pine, into a towel rack. I've gathered the things I'm going to need, which is a craft knife, a pencil, some imagination, and some plastic sheets, which I've been drawing ideas and designs on for shapes that might work to give my towel rack a bit of unique character. First things first, I am going to rule a line using just the edge of my plastic as a square edge, so I know how long I want it to be. The next step, which failed to record, was to trace the designs from the plastic onto the bit of board using the pencil. I then used the craft knife to scratch some texture into the designs I had drawn. So that's one of 2 little birds with some texture now. So the next part of making this design happen is to cut out the curves that I drew before. And for that end I have a little Japanese saw, and I'm just going to cut off the big pieces first, and then we can come back and do the more detailed bits after. So, after chopping a whole lot of little chunks off, we're left with something roughly the right shape. I then used a circular rasp to smooth out all of the rough bits and to add decorative little notches onto the front edge of my board. And there it is. All that's left Now is I need to varnish it the same colour as our doors and attach some hooks. And that's my little project for the afternoon done. This week has had its ups and downs, and the weather has not been great, but taking some time to enjoy the strawberry blossom and the wildflowers feels like a nice way to wrap up. I hope you find some time to grow, make or cook something beautiful. And if you like what we're doing, click like. And so it's easy to come back, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, do widzenia.